Should the Dallas Cowboys consider making a trade for Isaiah Wynn? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. It's question day. I love question day. Love getting some interaction with the folks because I know you guys have great questions all the time, and it makes us think about this stuff, which is fun. So I don't want to waste too much time. Let's get into it.
Yeah, a lot of people have some questions about Isaiah Wynn, the offensive tackle for the New England Patriots. So this all started yesterday because Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated reported that the Patriots have been kind of fielding some calls for Isaiah Wynn. He's a former first-round pick from Georgia back in the 2018 draft. We actually liked him quite a bit for the Cowboys, maybe at their spot, but would you be interested in potentially making a move like this before the season begins?
It's complicated, man. It's a really complicated situation, and I think that's what I was trying to get at, in the conversation yesterday on Twitter. I think, the talent is there. I mean, clearly we liked him a lot coming out of college. If you remember, the big kind of sticking point for him was, is he too short to play tackle? But it was an incredible tackle in college, and I think he's proven that that's not been an issue in the NFL for him while playing left tackle. The problem with him has been staying on the field. It's been an injury-based situation, which is something that he carried with him from college. And to kind of just give a brief timeline, I think he finished each of the last two seasons, if I'm not mistaken, on the injured reserve. At some point, they swapped him over to right tackle because they had signed Trent Brown, and they wanted to get Trent Brown opportunity on the left side. And so he was kind of in the middle of that transition this offseason with some kind of mixed results from what we've heard. It's a difficult transition moving from left to right. And I think, the thought process is that they have gotten comfortable with another one of their tackles on their roster who had played some time at right tackle as well. And that's why they're, kind of comfortable with trying to expunge this $10 million contract off their books. They're really tied up to the cap. So they need the money. I think the thing that makes it difficult is the stuff that we mentioned, and I'm sure you'll get into this too, is that, he doesn't have a ton of right tackle experience. It doesn't sound like he's necessarily taken to the position very well. So the question becomes, if Cowboys trade for him and they get that $10 million contract on the books, even if they decide not to sign him to an extension, which is its own conversation. What have you got? Have you got a guy that can actually play swing tackle for you? Because he's only played really left tackle. The right tackle transition is kind of in process. So I just think it makes a lot of sense in the sense that he's a tackle that everyone knows and has some pedigree and has some talent, but the particulars of the situation don't make it like something that we shouldn't do. It's just there's a lot to kind of sort through because it's not exactly a perfect fit.
This one's complicated, Landon. There's just a lot of moving parts here. And let's just start with the player himself, right? Like the Cowboys have been wanting to get bigger on the offensive line. Like if that's the only thing here, like they wanted Tyler Smith because they wanted a bigger guard that could help move players off the line of scrimmage. Isaiah Wynn is not that at right tackle. Like he's one of the smallest offensive tackles in the league. He's 6'2", 305 pounds. Like it's just not what they're looking for. And I think Isaiah Wynn is still a really good player. I think there should be a lot of teams interested in him, but I just don't think he fits what the Cowboys are looking for right now. And I can say all that, even saying I think he would probably be an upgrade over Terrence Steele.
Maybe.
But the Cowboys have shown nothing over the last few months that suggests they want anybody other than Terrence Steele starting at right tackle, right? They had a proven Pro Bowl caliber right tackle with no guaranteed money left on his deal with Lyle Collins, who they cut, right? Who is a big tackle, who can move. They want Terrence Steele to win that job, and I think they want to save some money at that right tackle spot. So I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I think, another part of the La'el Collins thing is that they wanted reliability. They felt like they couldn't trust La'el Collins anymore.
Isaiah was the same thing. He's started 33 games over the last 4 seasons.
Yep. That's what I was going to say, is that it maybe as Isaiah Wynn, you don't have to worry about some of the knucklehead factor that you did with La'el Collins, but maybe you don't. I don't know the player that well.
No, it doesn't seem like that's the problem.
It doesn't seem like he's that guy. But you probably will have to deal with some kind of injury stuff. I mean, it's been consistent, and the Cowboys already have one of those guys that may have some injury stuff during the season. That guy is definitely worth it. I don't know that paying $10 million
at the same price.
Yeah, right. That's the other right. Exactly. Paying $10 million for a guy that you don't know can play right tackle, that you're going to have to give up an asset for the right to pay them $10 million. Mm-hmm. And even if you do, okay, you better hope that he's the starting right tackle and that Steele's your swing tackle, because Steele's really the only one of those two guys who has experience doing any kind of swing tackle stuff. So I'm not sitting here poo-pooing the idea or saying that the Cowboys shouldn't do it. I don't think either one of us are, but I think that there is reasonable points to be made of why this isn't a perfect fit and why the Cowboys may not be as interested as a lot of us in kind of doing this deal, because first of all, there may be better situations out there. There may be better free agents that can play right tackle better than Isaiah Wynn can. Isaiah Wynn is like, if you didn't have any tackle solution and you're trying to get a young guy that you can develop. Yeah.
The Raiders right now, they have absolutely nothing at right tackle. Isaiah Wynn can give them at least a floor at the right tackle position they don't have. I think it makes all the sense in the world for the Cowboys to continue to develop Terrence Steele, right? We're in year 3 of this. He is incredibly cheap. He knows the offense. I think it's just the Cowboys are going to be in a better situation if they can find a swing tackle, which might be easier than paying $10 million for a guy that's maybe a moderately sized upgrade over Terrence Steele.
I got to say, I think Terrence Steele has a higher floor than Isaiah Wynn as a tackle. Terrence Steele is a bigger player. They're probably similar athletes. Isaiah Wynn's probably a better mover. But I just think that, if Isaiah Wynn came in with a ready-made high floor, that would be one thing. Right. That if this situation, let's say that Tyron Smith played right tackle and we were haggling over what to do at left tackle and Isaiah Wynn with left tackle experience, that would be another thing. It's asking him to swap to the other side is almost kind of setting him back to before where Terrence Steele was. Because at least Terrence Steele has played consistently these last 2 years when he's been called upon, and he's played mostly right tackle. So I still have a lot of faith in Terrence Steele. I mean, I know it hasn't been perfect yet, and maybe it hasn't been what La'el Collins was last year yet, but I think that he can get there. I think he has physical attributes that can be developed that make him worth investing the time. And I think he's a hard worker that you can rely on. And I think the Cowboys right now are really interested in having those kind of players as their starters.
I 100% agree. Let's take a quick break so we can tell you guys about Athletic Greens. I've been on Athletic Greens for a few months now, and I absolutely love it. Just have it in the morning with my cup of coffee. It has a very mild tropical taste. What's in this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals to help start your day off right. It costs less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit that you have in the morning, right?
What?
And yeah, I know. In fact, it's even cheaper than just going out and buying all the supplements yourself. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, next one, Landon. This one from our guy Yuma Cactus. He wants to know: is there a noticeable difference in Josh Ball's play at left tackle versus right tackle? Because I thought he struggled really bad. I get at left tackle again in the preseason game.
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen him play right tackle because he's been playing so much left tackle since Willetsko got hurt. I think that there is. I think he played okay at right tackle. He certainly looked more comfortable there. I don't know if that's really beneficial to anybody or if it's good enough to keep him on the team but I do think that he was playing better football on the right side than on the left. And again, like I can understand it because he spent almost the entire spring, practicing on that side. So, I don't really know what to do with Ball at this point. He's just they moved him around, to kind of facilitate this other situation. He clearly is not going to be the swing tackle for this team.
No, he can't. He can't.
I would put him back at right tackle. Have him continue to take those reps, and then see what you've got as a right tackle down. When it's cut down time. But
I'm confused about the plan though in general. Like, I thought it was way too much to ask Matt Willetsko, even if he's healthy, to play left tackle in preseason and maybe be the first guy off the bench at left tackle. It just seemed like I love Willetsko, like one of my favorite picks that the Cowboys made. That's too much for him in year one.
What's the plan now? They're not. It doesn't sound like I'm doing my 53-man roster, and I've been struggling over it. But one of the things that I've kind of decided that I'm going to do is keep Willetsko on the team because, I mean, they're not putting it. Maybe they revert him to one of these statuses on the other side of week one, right?
Well,
like maybe they IR him or
let me. I should mention this. Todd Archer had a really interesting tweet this morning. Very cryptic.
Oh, it's this morning. Good. Okay.
He said, "Don't be surprised if the Cowboys don't have a kicker, punter, long snapper, or their special teams ace and CJ Goodwin on the team after initial cutdowns."
I already have taken CJ Goodwin and Jake McQuaid off my 53-man roster because they're vested veterans. They don't have to clear waivers. You can cut them immediately and then re-sign them as soon as you move some folks into these special things. And people need to remind that. I talked about that on Twitter, is that when you're doing your 53-man roster, you kind of need to specify, right? Are you doing the initial 53-man roster or are you doing the 53-man roster week one, right? Because those are going to be very different things. The week one roster is closer to what the roster will be, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's after you've done all you flipped all the roster mechanisms, you put people on injured reserve. I mean, really, it's just injured reserve, and then I think Bland is the only player that's actually eligible for in-season PUP because he's still on PUP, right? So
not Bland.
Oh no, sorry, not Bland.
Willetsko, right?
Well, no, not Willetsko. The linebacker from LSU.
Damone Clark.
Clark. Sorry, Bland. I'm trying to picture my 53-man roster, and I'm mixing it wrong. So I think he's only guy who's actually eligible for in-season PUP because he's on preseason PUP. Everyone else who's going to have any kind of roster mechanism move is going to be an IR, so that has a limited return time or whatever. But obviously, like we mentioned, you have to carry those guys with you on the initial 53-man roster, and then once you're on the other side, you can flip those mechanisms, and that's when you would sign McQuaid, you sign Marr, you sign Anger, or whoever the kicker is. I don't know if it's Marr. And then Goodwin. The reason Goodwin's part of that too is, again, vested veteran. You just say, hey, good. I think we did this last year with Goodwin too.
Yep.
We'll cut you. We'll sign you right back after we flip some switches. So that's all something to keep in mind. But beyond that, with Willetsko, it sounds like, just based on some things we heard, I think like a week or so ago, that he may not get surgery this year. That doesn't necessarily mean that they won't put him on on some sort of roster, list. But it's interesting to at least think about, well, okay, then what's the plan there, at least for his roster spot? So that'll be something interesting to watch, exactly what the Cowboys end up doing with Willetsko after that initial 53-man roster cut.
All right. Speaking of kind of roster construction, this one comes from Vance. He wants to know, does somebody like Israel Mukamu, who can play safety and cornerback, Does that make somebody like Nahshon Wright expendable? Because we know the safety situation already. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse. Those three are locked, and they all have their set roles. They obviously like Marquise Bell quite a bit, and it seems, I don't want to call him a lock, but it seems pretty much like a lock that he's going to be one of the safeties. So can you keep somebody like Mukamu as that fifth safety and then move on from Nahshon Wright because of his position flexibility?
See, it's interesting that you say that because I'm doing that already on my 53-man roster, but with linebackers.
Yeah, so am I. I'm calling Kearse a linebacker, right?
How many linebackers have you got in your 53 right now?
Well, what do you count Micah Parsons?
I count him as a linebacker.
Yeah, 4.
Me too. And I think that's part of the reason I feel comfortable doing that is because Kearse, Bell, and Mukamu can all take facsimile of linebacker type snaps, right? Yeah. So I actually went long on corners. I ended up keeping them all. I think you could convince yourself some of that, but I don't think it works as well going from safety to cornerback. I think the cleaner spot where you can rob Peter to pay Paul is between safety and linebackers.
What to me, like, this is going to come down to, like, seriously, is who's a better special team player? Is it Nahshon Wright or Luke Gifford? Because that might be the different. Like, that might be who they're battling, right? Not necessarily corners. Like Nahshon Wright might not be battling DeRon Bland or Calvin Joseph. It's, hey, can we use Gifford on more special team snaps than you? If the answer is no, then maybe they do keep another linebacker.
Well, and again, to even further, this is so complicated. Roster construction stuff, so complicated. To further complicate it, you also know that you have Clark, remembered his name this time, coming back off of the pup at some point. I mean, they made it sound like this is not a redshirt year for Clark. Like, he's coming back to play at some point this season. So I don't know when that is, if that's 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But I think that may weigh into some of their decision as far as, do we want a fifth linebacker or do we want a 6th or 7th cornerback? Who knows?
We'll see. All right, we've got a few more questions to get to, but before we do that, I'll tell you about LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small businesses fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's get to some other questions kind of really quickly. Some of these are fun. This one from Abraham. Now that Cedric Wilson is gone, which non-quarterback is the most likely to throw a pass this year? Man. I know the answer, by the way. Brian Anger.
Okay. That's a good answer. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Bones is throwing at least one pass on a punt. It's going to happen.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know of any, this is the first time in a while that I don't know of any like receiver or anyone that necessarily has a strong arm. So
probably CD. They could probably run like a jet sweep with CD and have him throw it. Maybe Tony Pollard. I think Pollard has thrown a pass before in his career. I think.
Has he?
Yeah,
the options aren't great. If Turpin ever played any quarterback at his size, he probably can't get the ball in his hands all the way.
Yeah. By the way, I was watching a Cowboy video. It was a clip from 2006. Did you know Jason Witten threw like a 70-yard pass to T.O. in 2006?
Oh, yeah. I actually do remember that.
It was like on a broken play. It was kind of funny. But I'll post it on Twitter here.
That was God. Now that you mentioned that, I do remember that. Yeah, because didn't later he there was a big thing about him returning the favor, right?
I
no,
think so.
it was Dez. It was
Dez did it. Yeah,
it was Dez that did it. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. I forgot about that.
All right, next question from Zach. Has DaRon Bland solidified himself enough to be the cornerback 4 on this team?
I don't know. I think it's still too early to say that. Going back and watching the game, he didn't have the game that we were all. He was fine, but I thought that I thought that Joseph was also fine, and so was Wright for the most part. So I think Wright's definitely the guy that seems to be in the most trouble of those spots. I think because Joseph has kind of evened his play out a little bit and kind of reset his trajectory. But
it might
I don't
depend.
know.
It might depend on who's injured, right? Or who's playing. Like, do we need more size, right? Or do we need more athleticism? It might just depend a little bit.
I'm a little bit nervous about. I'd like to see Bland play more slot and see what that looks like, because I'm a little bit nervous about what I saw him doing playing in the slot.
He's just not overly quick. He's long and he's athletic. But when you're in that slot job, you got to be really quick and tough. Which makes
me think that maybe if he was going to be the third corner, that you kick Brown inside and let him play on the outside. So.
Especially if it's a long-term absence. Like if Jordan Lewis got hurt, for 4 games, I bet you that's what Dallas would consider. And at that point, they might feel more comfortable with Kelvin Joseph on the outside just because he's a little bit more talented. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. This one from Preppy Boy 89. Who do we keep as the third running back? I know this is a big Twitter argument that I just have not gotten myself into yet. Rico Dowdle or Malik?
I mean, for me, it's Dowdle, but I mean, I understand why people like Malik. He runs the ball well.
Malik
I just
Davis,
don't know.
By the way,
I just don't know how good he is on special teams necessarily compared to what you're looking for, especially if you're cutting some of these other special teams types guys. I tend to think that Dowdle is the better back and the better special teams player, but I'm not. I think Malik Davis has looked good, so I'm not going to be furious, I guess, if it ends up being the other way. I personally would pick Dowdle.
Yeah, younger me would have been in day-long debates on Twitter on this, but I can't bring myself to care about the third running back too much on this team.
Man, just getting old, huh? Is that what this is?
I mean, I've really adopted the running backs don't matter at that point. So it's just like,
that's fair.
Whoever.
I also think that this conversation of there's no way. I mean, people are falling into the same trap every year as they do. There's no way Malik Davis makes it through waivers. I'm like,
watch preseason, guys.
He's a running back. It's just he will.
Watch a random preseason game and you watch how excited teams get about their fourth running back on a team. That's why Malik Davis will make a practice squad. I promise it will happen.
Every team has got some college or high school's all-time leading rusher on their team, guys. Mm-hmm. That's just how the NFL works. So, I have a hard time believing that if either one of them were to be cut, that they wouldn't clear waivers, that the Cowboys wouldn't be able to find a way to get them back.
This one's really quick, and it's actually funny because you think the answer is obvious, but I'm not quite sure. From Ryan, who's faster, Kevontae Turpin or Micah Parsons?
Micah Parsons. I don't think that's actually close, honestly. I think Turpin's very fast. I mean, I think he's.
It's a stupid question because it's you're right. I believe.
I'm pretty sure that Micah Parsons is faster.
Yeah. Parsons it's just dumb. It's dumb how athletic he is. It's just not supposed to happen. All right. Next one. From Taylor. Do you think Will Grier showed enough in the preseason game to warrant the number 2 spot on this team?
Not yet. No. I mean, I think he's on his way. I think he can still earn it. We didn't see very much of him in that game, so I would have a hard time just
thanks to Kevontae, we didn't see very much of Will Grier.
That's very true. Slow down, Kevontae. No, I think we need to still see some more, or at least they probably still need to see some more. We have to remember now, and this is where things get really treacherous, right? We've got all this information that we've been able to see and glean, all these practices, these preseason games. They're about to go. They're going to have a practice today. They're going to have a practice tomorrow. We'll get a lot of news and reports about all that. So, make sure you check us out tomorrow and the following day for reports on that. But after that, they kind of start to close things down. and they start to kind of shut, media access, they shut fans out. That's when they start kind of really working on the nitty gritty of getting ready for week 1, getting ready for the regular season, getting ready for these actual rosters, and okay, who's the actual starter here? What's the pecking order? So we need to keep in mind that this is an incredibly important time for these teams, and a lot of the things that we are certain about right now very much could change in the next 3 weeks. So we're going to pay special attention to these last 2 practices that we have that are open, and then we got to realize that a lot more can still happen away from our eyes when the Cowboys actually get to, okay, we're done installing, we're now competing for these spots, and then it goes from competing to preparing for Tampa Bay for week 1. And all of that kind of is done outside of our prying eyes.
And I do want to remind people, and we've been saying this for years, the most important job for a backup quarterback is not to play well, when you're asked to play. It's not, right? The main job of the backup quarterback is to help the starter get ready for the upcoming week, whether that's additional film study, watching the opponent defense a week before, doing some scout team stuff. Like, that's the most important job. As much as I want Will Grier to win the job because I think he's a little bit more fun, Cooper Rush is probably better off in that number 2 role. We'll just see how the Cowboys balance that over the next week or so.
Yeah, and that's a great point. These jobs are not all decided by, especially some of the backup stuff. And like you said, maybe most especially the backup quarterback. It's not only
by your
decided by what's
right?
on the field. Yeah, it's a lot about how much you contribute to what's going on in the room and help in supporting Dak Prescott, which is obviously, the ultimate source of whether you're going to win or lose.
It's the number 1 job for the backup quarterback is how can I help Dak throughout the week? So he's the most prepared for the game on Sunday. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. Now make your second listen to Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise in a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. You can download the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. And we'll see you guys next time.